Have you ever observed how cats behave when you desperately try to catch them? The harder you chase, the faster they run. The more you reach out, the more elusive they become. This fascinating dynamic mirrors a truth many people overlook in romantic relationships. When someone isn't genuinely interested in building something meaningful with you, pursuing them relentlessly becomes an exhausting exercise in futility that drains your energy, diminishes your self-worth, and ultimately gets you nowhere. There's a profound wisdom in understanding this pattern. When you desperately chase after something or someone who keeps retreating, you're fighting against natural human psychology. The constant pursuit without reciprocation creates an unbalanced dynamic that feels increasingly uncomfortable for both parties. The person being chased feels pressured and overwhelmed, while the person chasing experiences growing frustration and diminishing self-esteem. This cycle perpetuates itself until someone finally breaks free from the pattern. However, there's encouraging news in all of this. There are significantly more effective and emotionally sustainable approaches to navigating situations where romantic interest isn't mutual. These strategies don't involve manipulation, game playing, or pretending to be someone you're not. Instead, they focus on the most important person in your life, you. They center on developing genuine self-respect, maintaining healthy boundaries, and building a fulfilling life that naturally attracts people who appreciate your authentic value. When you genuinely care about someone, redirecting your focus away from them and back towards yourself can feel counterintuitive, even painful. Your instinct might tell you to try harder, do more, prove your worth, or demonstrate your dedication. However, this instinct often leads you down a path of diminishing returns. The more you sacrifice yourself on the altar of someone else's approval, the less attractive you become, not just to them, but to yourself. Understanding this dynamic requires examining specific behaviors that undermine your attractiveness and self-respect. These aren't just abstract concepts, but concrete actions that signal desperation, lack of boundaries, and insufficient self-worth. By identifying and eliminating these behaviors, you fundamentally transform how others perceive you, and more importantly, how you perceive yourself. Let's explore these crucial principles for redirecting your efforts and becoming someone who naturally attracts healthy, reciprocal relationships. The texting trap. Communication without connection. Consider your texting patterns when you're interested in someone who isn't reciprocating that interest. Many people fall into the trap of excessive messaging, sending good morning text, midday check-ins, evening updates, and good night messages, creating a constant stream of communication that feels more like surveillance than genuine connection. This bombardment of messages rarely changes someone's feelings. In fact, it typically produces the opposite effect, making you appear desperate and making the recipient feel pressured to respond out of obligation rather than genuine desire. When someone responds to your heartfelt, lengthy messages with single-word replies or takes hours or days to answer basic questions, the message is clear. They're not busy beyond capacity to send a meaningful response. They're simply not invested in the conversation with you. This reality stings, but recognizing it is essential for your emotional well-being and future relationship success. The alternative approach involves respecting boundaries and giving space. This doesn't mean playing games or artificially withholding communication, but rather allowing natural, balanced conversation to develop. When you step back from constant messaging, you create space for the other person to initiate contact. This balanced approach reveals their genuine interest level. Someone who is emotionally healthy and genuinely interested will appreciate the respect you show for their autonomy and will invest equally in maintaining contact. Furthermore, reducing your texting frequency frees your mental and emotional energy for other fulfilling activities. Instead of anxiously checking your phone every few minutes, waiting for responses that may never come, you can engage with hobbies, friendships, career development, and personal growth activities that genuinely enhance your life quality. This shift in focus doesn't just make you feel better, it makes you more attractive as a person with a full, interesting life rather than someone whose happiness depends entirely on another person's attention.
The futility of psychological games. Many relationship advice sources advocate for playing hard to get or engaging in various psychological strategies designed to spark attraction through manufactured scarcity or mystery. While these tactics occasionally produce short-term results, they fundamentally undermine the foundation of any potential healthy relationship. When you pretend to be disinterested to pique someone's curiosity, you're not building genuine connection, you're constructing an elaborate performance that cannot be sustained long-term. These games make you appear manipulative, immature, or emotionally unavailable, none of which are attractive qualities to emotionally healthy individuals seeking genuine partnerships. The person on the receiving end of these tactics either sees through them, creating distrust, or believes them, leading to confusion about your actual intentions and feelings. Neither outcome serves your ultimate goal of building a meaningful relationship. The far more effective approach involves straightforward honesty about your intentions and feelings. This doesn't mean overwhelming someone with premature declarations of love or future planning, but rather being clear and consistent about who you are and what you're generally seeking in relationships. When you communicate with authentic transparency, you accomplish two valuable outcomes. People who appreciate directness and emotional maturity are drawn to you, while people seeking drama, games, or emotional manipulation naturally filter themselves out of your life. Consider the alternative scenario. You start ignoring messages to appear mysterious or busy, and the person simply thinks you're being strange or has lost interest. You've invested energy in a strategy that not only fails to achieve your goal, but also damages any genuine connection that might have existed. Conversely, when you're honest about your feelings and intentions, you create clarity. If someone is genuinely interested, they'll appreciate knowing where you stand. If they're not interested, you've saved yourself from investing further energy into a situation with no potential for mutual fulfillment. The danger of singular focus. Imagine investing all your financial resources into a single, highly volatile, speculative investment. Financial advisors universally warn against this strategy because it concentrates all your risk into one basket. If that investment fails, you lose everything. The same principle applies to emotional investment in someone who shows no signs of serious commitment to you. When you make someone your sole focus, organizing your entire life around their schedule, needs, and preferences, while they casually float in and out of your life according to their convenience, you create a dangerous imbalance. Your happiness, self-worth, and daily emotional state become dependent on their fluctuating attention and mood. This dependency is unhealthy regardless of whether the relationship eventually develops into something more serious. The solution involves maintaining a diversified life portfolio. Continue investing in friendships, developing hobbies and skills, pursuing career goals, and building a social network that provides support, fulfillment, and joy independent of any single romantic interest. This approach serves multiple beneficial purposes simultaneously. First, it protects your emotional well-being. When your happiness isn't entirely dependent on one person's response to you, their distance or rejection doesn't devastate your entire world. Second, it makes you genuinely more attractive. People are naturally drawn to individuals who have full, interesting lives, rather than those desperately seeking someone else to provide meaning and purpose. Third, it ensures that if the relationship does develop, you're entering it as a whole person, rather than someone looking for another person to complete them. When you find yourself constantly rearranging plans, canceling commitments to friends, or abandoning personal interests to accommodate someone who makes minimal effort to reciprocate, it's time to step back and reassess. Your time and energy are valuable resources that deserve to be invested where they're appreciated and reciprocated.
Confronting reality, the red flag recognition. Early in any potential relationship, warning signs often appear that indicate someone's lack of genuine interest or emotional availability. These red flags manifest in various forms.
inconsistent behavior, where they alternate between warm and cold, lack of future planning, where they avoid any discussion about potential plans beyond the immediate present, emotional unavailability, where they maintain distance and avoid vulnerable, meaningful conversation, or unreliability, where they frequently cancel plans without legitimate reasons or adequate notice. Many people, hoping the situation will improve, choose to overlook these warning signs. They rationalize the behavior, make excuses, or convince themselves that if they just remain patient and understanding, the other person will eventually change and commit. This hopeful thinking rarely produces the desired outcome. Instead, it extends the period of confusion and emotional pain while delaying the inevitable recognition that the relationship lacks the necessary foundation for success. The healthier approach involves facing these red flags directly rather than brushing them aside. This requires honest evaluation of the situation and willingness to address concerns openly. When someone frequently cancels plans without good reason, maintains vagueness about their intentions, or shows patterns of inconsistent interest, these behaviors warrant direct conversation. Bringing up your concerns and observing how they respond provides crucial information about their emotional maturity and genuine interest. Someone who is emotionally healthy and genuinely interested will welcome the opportunity to address concerns and clarify intentions. They'll engage in honest conversation about where the relationship is heading and work collaboratively to resolve issues. Conversely, someone who becomes defensive, dismisses your concerns, or refuses to engage in meaningful dialogue is clearly demonstrating that they're not prepared for or interested in the kind of relationship you're seeking. This information, while potentially disappointing, is valuable because it allows you to redirect your energy toward more promising connections. Decoding mixed signals. Mixed signals create emotional whiplash. One day, someone is warm, affectionate, and attentive to you, making you feel valued and creating hope for the relationship's future. The next day, they're distant, unresponsive, and seemingly indifferent, leaving you confused about what changed and what you might have done wrong. This inconsistency isn't mysterious or romantic. It's emotionally exhausting and indicates unclear intentions or emotional unavailability. Rather than spending countless hours analyzing every interaction, trying to decode hidden meanings in text messages, or speculating about what might be causing the inconsistency, the most effective approach involves direct communication. Initiating a straightforward conversation about the mixed signals and requesting clarity about intentions cuts through confusion and demonstrates your own emotional maturity and self-respect. This conversation might feel uncomfortable or vulnerable, but it serves your interests regardless of the outcome. If the person acknowledges the mixed signals and provides genuine explanation and commitment to more consistent behavior, you've strengthened the communication foundation of your relationship. If they become evasive, defensive, or unable to provide clarity, you've learned that they're not ready for or interested in the kind of clear, committed relationship you deserve. Consider that someone who keeps you in perpetual confusion through inconsistent behavior is often keeping their options open. They maintain just enough connection to keep you interested while remaining uncommitted enough to pursue other options. This positioning isn't fair to you and doesn't respect your time or emotional investment. The performance trap. When someone isn't showing genuine interest, many people respond by escalating their efforts to impress. They plan elaborate dates, purchase expensive gifts, offer excessive compliments, and generally perform increasingly grand gestures designed to demonstrate their value and win approval. This approach fundamentally misunderstands attraction and relationship development. Authentic attraction isn't based on performance or material gestures. While thoughtful acts of kindness and generosity certainly enhance relationships, they cannot create attraction where genuine interest doesn't exist. When you constantly perform to try to win someone over, you communicate several problematic messages. That you don't believe your authentic self is sufficient, that you're willing to compromise your own values and resources for someone else's approval, and that the relationship is fundamentally transactional rather than based on mutual appreciation of each other's inherent qualities.
The alternative involves being your authentic self, the version of yourself that you're genuinely proud of, not a performed version designed to meet someone else's perceived expectations. This authentic presentation allows the other person to either appreciate who you genuinely are or clearly demonstrate that you're not compatible. Either outcome is more valuable than temporarily winning someone's interest through unsustainable performance. It's important to note that being your authentic self doesn't mean being complacent about personal growth or presenting yourself carelessly. There's a crucial distinction between your authentic self and your best self. Your best self is the version of you that lives according to your values, maintains good physical and emotional health, pursues meaningful goals, and treats others with respect and kindness. This is different from a performed persona designed specifically to attract someone else's approval. If someone isn't impressed by your genuine self, your authentic personality, values, interests, and character, no amount of elaborate dates or expensive gifts will create lasting attraction. You'll exhaust yourself maintaining a performance that cannot be sustained, and the relationship, if it develops, will be built on false pretenses that eventually crumble. Living your life fully. One of the most damaging patterns in unreciprocated romantic pursuit is putting your life on hold, waiting for someone else to decide whether they want to be with you. This manifests as declining social invitations in case they might become available, avoiding pursuing new opportunities because they might interfere with potential time together, or generally organizing your entire life around their schedule and availability while they make no similar accommodations for you. This pattern communicates low self-worth and creates an increasingly imbalanced dynamic. The person who puts their life on hold appears to have nothing valuable happening independently, which paradoxically decreases their attractiveness. Meanwhile, their life becomes smaller, less fulfilling, and more dependent on the other person's attention for any sense of meaning or joy. The solution involves actively continuing to build your life regardless of whether any particular romantic interest pans out. Maintain and develop friendships. Pursue hobbies and interests that bring you joy. Work toward career and personal goals, and create a life so full and engaging that anyone wanting to be part of it would need to add value rather than distract from it. This approach serves multiple purposes. It ensures your happiness isn't entirely dependent on another person's decision about you. It makes you substantially more attractive by demonstrating that you're a person with depth, interests, and commitments beyond romantic relationships. It also creates a natural filtering mechanism. Someone genuinely interested in you will make effort to become part of your full life, while someone just casually interested will naturally fall away when they realize you're not available to organize your entire existence around their convenience. Stop making excuses. When someone consistently demonstrates lack of consideration, reliability, or respect through their behavior, many people respond by creating excuses for them. They rationalize, well, she's just really busy with work, or he's going through a difficult time, or she's not good at communication, or he has trust issues from past relationships. While these factors might be genuinely true, they don't excuse ongoing behavior that makes you feel undervalued, disrespected, or confused. Making excuses for someone's poor behavior serves their interests at the expense of your own. It allows them to continue treating you inconsiderately without consequences, while you suppress your legitimate needs and feelings. This pattern cannot create a healthy relationship foundation because it establishes from the beginning that your feelings and standards don't matter as much as protecting them from accountability. The healthier approach involves being honest with yourself about how their behavior affects you and whether it meets your standards for how you deserve to be treated. If someone frequently cancels plans, is consistently unreliable, or treats you with disrespect, address it directly rather than creating justifications for why it's acceptable or understandable.
This direct approach might involve having a candid conversation about specific behaviors and how they impact you. Observe how they respond to this feedback. Someone who cares about you and is capable of a healthy relationship will take your concerns seriously, acknowledge the impact of their behavior, and make a genuine effort to change. Someone who becomes defensive, makes more excuses, or dismisses your feelings is showing you clearly that they're not prepared to be the kind of partner you deserve. Furthermore, recognize that when you don't demonstrate clear boundaries and standards, people often test more to see what they can get away with. By consistently accepting behavior that doesn't meet your standards, you inadvertently train people that you'll tolerate poor treatment. Never settle for scraps. Understanding your worth is fundamental for finding fulfilling relationships. You deserve partnerships where both people feel equally invested and enthusiastic about building something together. When you accept half-hearted commitment, minimal effort, or constant uncertainty about where things stand, you're settling for far less than you deserve. Many people convince themselves that some attention is better than none, or that they should be grateful for whatever crumbs of interest someone throws their way. This scarcity mindset is deeply destructive because it prevents you from being available for relationships that could genuinely fulfill you. While you're invested in someone who puts forth minimal effort, you're not emotionally or practically available for someone who would be thrilled to build something real with you. Additionally, recognize that people typically put their maximum effort in during the early stages of relationships. If someone is already showing minimal investment, inconsistency, or lack of enthusiasm when they're theoretically on their best behavior trying to impress you, their effort will only decrease further as the relationship continues. This pattern means that accepting minimal early effort is accepting that minimal effort represents the best you'll ever receive from this person. The alternative requires having clear standards for how you deserve to be treated and being willing to walk away from situations that don't meet those standards. This isn't about having unrealistic expectations or demanding perfection. It's about recognizing baseline requirements for healthy relationships: mutual respect, consistent communication, reliability, enthusiasm about spending time together, and genuine interest in your well-being and experiences. When someone shows interest but consistently puts forth minimal effort, makes you feel like an option rather than a priority, or leaves you confused about their intentions, it's time to reassess. Look for someone whose level of interest and investment matches your own, creating the balanced foundation that sustainable relationships require. Prioritizing your own needs. In pursuit of someone's approval and affection, many people fall into the pattern of consistently prioritizing the other person's needs, preferences, and comfort above their own. They hope that this selfless devotion will eventually be reciprocated once the other person recognizes how caring and accommodating they are. Unfortunately, this pattern rarely produces the desired outcome. When you consistently sublimate your own needs to prioritize someone else's, especially someone not equally invested in the relationship, you establish a problematic dynamic. You train the other person that your needs are less important, that they don't need to consider your preferences because you'll always accommodate theirs, and that the relationship revolves entirely around their comfort and convenience. This creates entitlement rather than gratitude, an imbalance rather than partnership. Healthy relationships require both people to express their needs openly and to work collaboratively to ensure both partners' needs are being met. This doesn't mean every single interaction must be perfectly balanced, but overall patterns should show mutual consideration and compromise. When you're consistently accommodating while receiving little reciprocal consideration, the relationship is fundamentally imbalanced in ways that cannot create lasting satisfaction. The solution involves communicating your needs clearly and honestly, and then observing whether the other person is willing to make reasonable efforts to meet you halfway. This requires knowing what your needs actually are,
which many people lose touch with when they've been focused exclusively on someone else's needs and preferences. Reconnecting with your own desires, boundaries, and requirements for feeling valued and respected in relationships is essential.
Release the fantasy. Perhaps the most psychologically seductive trap is becoming attached to potential rather than reality. You imagine how wonderful things could be if only various circumstances changed. If they got over their ex, if they weren't so busy with work, if they dealt with their commitment issues, if they realized how great you are together. These what-if scenarios can consume tremendous mental and emotional energy while keeping you invested in a fantasy rather than engaged with reality. The fundamental problem with this pattern is that you're not in a relationship with who the person could potentially become under imagined future circumstances. You're in whatever relationship currently exists with the person as they actually are right now. Decisions based on hoped-for future changes rather than present reality consistently lead to disappointment because you're essentially gambling that circumstances and people will transform in the specific ways you're imagining. This future-focused fantasy prevents you from making clear-eyed assessments about whether the current reality meets your needs and standards. It keeps you tethered to situations that aren't serving you, waiting for transformations that may never occur. Meanwhile, you're not available for relationships that could meet your needs in present reality rather than imaginary future scenarios that may never materialize. The solution involves ruthlessly focusing on what is actually happening rather than what might potentially happen. Evaluate the relationship based on current behavior patterns, present levels of investment and interest, and existing dynamics rather than hoped-for changes. Ask yourself, if nothing about this situation changes, if this person never becomes more available, more committed, or more interested than they are right now, would this relationship meet my needs and make me happy? If the honest answer is no, then you're staying invested in hope rather than reality. This hope is understandable, but ultimately unfair to yourself. You deserve to invest your limited time and emotional resources in relationships that fulfill you in present reality, not ones that might potentially fulfill you in imaginary future scenarios that may never materialize. The path forward: choosing self-respect. Understanding when to stop pursuing someone who isn't genuinely interested is fundamentally about self-respect. It's about recognizing that your time, energy, emotional investment, and companionship are valuable resources that deserve to be shared with people who appreciate and reciprocate them. When you release the pattern of chasing people who retreat from you, you create space in your life for relationships characterized by mutual interest, balanced investment, and genuine enthusiasm. This shift doesn't happen overnight and isn't always easy, especially when you have strong feelings for someone who isn't reciprocating your interest. However, each time you choose self-respect over desperate pursuit, you strengthen your ability to maintain healthy boundaries and standards. You build a life so full and fulfilling that you naturally attract people who want to add to that fullness, rather than people who require you to diminish yourself to accommodate their minimal interest. Remember that you deserve relationships where both people feel equally excited and committed to building something together. You deserve partnerships characterized by clear communication, mutual respect, consistent effort, and genuine care for each other's well-being. These relationships exist, but you cannot be available for them while you're pouring all your energy into situations that don't offer genuine potential for mutual fulfillment. The journey of developing self-respect and healthy relationship patterns is ongoing. It requires continuous self-awareness, willingness to maintain boundaries even when it's difficult, and courage to walk away from situations that don't serve your well-being. However, this journey ultimately leads to relationships that genuinely fulfill you, rather than constantly leaving you questioning your worth and hoping for scraps of attention. Choose to focus on building a life you genuinely love, developing yourself into the person you're proud to be, and maintaining clear standards for how you deserve to be treated. When you make these choices consistently, you naturally become attractive to emotionally healthy people seeking genuine partnerships. More importantly, you create a life that feels fulfilling regardless of your current relationship status, which is perhaps the most powerful position from which to enter any relationship. Your happiness, worth, and fulfillment are not dependent on any other person's approval or attention. They come from within, from the life you build, the person you become, and the standards you maintain. This understanding is the foundation of both self-respect and healthy relationships.